Hi, I'm Judi Goldenberg. I have an introduction, a summary, some historical background, and a conclusion. I have a PowerPoint presentation so you can follow and enjoy, even if you can't always understand what I say in my Brooklyn accent. In his autobiography, Trollope speculates about why the Claverings was not as popular as he thought it deserved to be. This is my first time reading the novel, so I'll hold off judgment till the end. What I will say is that in the first 12 chapters, there are a number of passages I believe show Trollope at his best. I will point them out as we go along. Summary. The Claverings opens with Julia Brabazon and Harry Clavering in the garden at Clavering Park. 2 years before, they had been a young, handsome couple in love, but Julia broke it off, and now she is engaged to Lord Ongar, who is not young, not handsome, and it is obvious love has nothing to do with it. Simply put, she has 200 pounds a year. She owes 600. Lord Unger has about 60,000 a year. Harry pleads with Julia to change her mind. She suggests Harry follow her example and find himself a nice rich girl to marry. Harry is appalled. From the beginning, it is clear the two main characters represent two very different approaches to life. Harry follows his heart and does what feels natural, sometimes without thinking. Julia is thinking all the time, mostly about social status and her financial interests. A family history may be helpful here. The Claverings, the Brabazons, and Lord Ongar's family, the Courtons, are all old aristocracy. Clavering Park is entailed to Sir Hugh Clavering, 11th Baronet of that name. I did this because I needed it. I hope it helps you. Um, Sir Hugh is married to Julia's sister Hermione, who has used her husband's connection to put her sister in the way of other rich men, as Jane Austen puts it, with the result that Julia is now set to marry Sir Hugh's friend, the even wealthier, even more disagreeable Lord Ongar. Harry's father, Henry Clavering, is Sir Hugh's uncle and rector of Clavering Church. Note, Harry is fourth in line to inherit Clavering Park. Sir Hugh's 2-year-old son inherits if Sir Hugh dies. Sir Hugh's brother Archie inherits if the son dies. Sir Hugh's uncle Henry, Harry's father, inherits if Archie dies. And then comes Harry, unless Sir Hugh or his son or his brother have additional male offspring. In other words, Harry cannot count on a big inheritance. He needs to earn money on his own, and that's okay with Harry. As a schoolmaster and Cambridge Fellow, he is well positioned for a career in teaching or the church. But Harry wants to be an engineer. More about that later. Next slide, please. Harry's father urges him to stick to the church. Henry Clavering is typical of Trollope's secondary characters, in some ways a recognizable type, in other ways highly individual. Henry is not a hard worker, but he is certainly kinder, gentler, and a lot more flexible than his nephew, Sir Hugh. We are told that 10 years before, when our old friend Bishop Proudie informed Henry he thought it improper for a clergyman to hunt, Henry dutifully, if regretfully, gave up hunting. Trollope comments, had I been the parson of Clavering, I should, under those circumstances, have hunted double. Harry is neither as complying as his father nor as practical. There's a training fee for entry-level engineers, which Harry plans to pay out of his own savings. Instead, he writes Julia a check to cover her debt. Julia returns the check. She likes the money well enough, but accepting an expensive gift from your ex is a bad look for a bride-to-be, and Julia is all about how things look. So, Harry is free to start his engineering career. Next slide. Trollope has been accused of being long-winded at times, but the character sketch introducing Harry's new boss, Mr. Burton, shows that when he wishes, Trollope can pack a lot of information into just a few sentences. He does this by giving selected details and leaving the rest to the reader's imagination. As soon as he meets Mr. Burton's youngest daughter, Florence, Harry sees she is no Julia Brabazon. Florence is not elegant or sophisticated, manipulative or mercenary. Harry has zero interest in Florence. He's still brooding over Julia. Likewise, he's unimpressed with the town, the accommodations, Mr. Burton himself. Harry just may be more of an aristocrat than he likes to think. That doesn't worry Harry. He signed his contract. He'll deal with the details later. Next slide. Enter Lord Ongar, sporting his jet black toupee. Quote, no doubt an effort was made to hide the Whiggishness of his wigs, but what effect in that direction was ever made successfully? Reading Trollope expands one's vocabulary. Whiggishness is a new one on me. Hard living has definitely taken its toll on Lord Ongar. Quote, he hunted though he could not ride, he shot though he could not walk. Unfortunately, he drank though he had no capacity for drinking. His friends had taught him to believe that his only chance of saving himself lay in marriage, and therefore he had engaged himself to Julia Brabazon, purchasing her at the price of a brilliant settlement. Close quote. The wedding goes off without a hitch. Locals watching the bride and groom from a distance see a feckless old man and a sturdy young woman, not exactly a perfect match. That doesn't worry Julia. She's made her deal. She'll handle the details later. After a year or so, rumors about Lady Ongar are flying. One rumor has it she's taken a Polish count as a lover, another that her husband is set to divorce her, another that he's seriously ill. Lord and Lady Ongar have been living on the continent, so it's hard to tell from a distance what's really going on. The only thing we know for sure is that on Christmas Day, Lord Ongar dies in Italy and his wife is still by his side. Next slide. The Claverings at the rectory met the late Lord only once at his wedding, but they try to put on an appropriate display of mourning. Quote, will anyone dare to call this hypocrisy? If it be so called, who in the world is not a hypocrite? I love it when Trollope's confidential, almost conspiratorial tone makes me feel like we are having a little confab between ourselves about the people we are observing together. Together we laugh at them and ourselves. They are only union, and so are we. Turns out Julia's not the only one who's had a busy year. Harry has moved to company headquarters in London. Plus, he's engaged to Florence Burton. Harry is now as impatient to marry Florence as he was to get back together with Julia 3 chapters ago. Florence insists they wait until he earns enough money not to support her in the manner to which she is accustomed. Her needs are modest, but rather to which Harry is accustomed. She accepts it may be a long engagement. Meanwhile, the new widow wants to return to Clavering Park, but Sir Hugh doesn't want her and her roomers anywhere near. So Hermione asks Harry to find Julia an apartment in London. Harry not only finds her an apartment, he meets her at the train station. She's accompanied by a maid and manservant dressed in the best widow's weeds money can buy. She barely acknowledges him. Next, please. Next slide, please. Okay, time for comic relief. Remember we said Harry's father was not hardworking? Well, his curate, Reverend Saul, makes up for that and then some. Unfortunately, Reverend Saul is socially inept. He's way too work-focused, earnest, totally inarticulate, especially when it comes to feelings. He gives no hint of having any feelings for Harry's sister Fanny before suddenly proposing to her in the pouring rain. Needless to say, Fanny turns him down. Back in London, Harry finds himself bristling when co-workers slap him on the back or call him no small beer. To Harry, such friendly familiarity is just a little bit too familiar. He enjoys dinner at the home of Theodore Burton, his mentor at work and future brother-in-law, but he's put off when Theodore dusts his shoes with his handkerchief. This is a small annoyance, to be sure, but it confirms a growing suspicion that Harry and the business of engineering may not be a perfect match. Next slide, please. Far more worrisome is Harry's renewed association with Julia. Harry is actually thinking that Florence will make the sweetest, the dearest, truest little wife that ever man took to his home at the very moment he is knocking on Lady Ongar's door. What is he doing knocking on her door? Of course, as soon as Julia reached out to him, Harry came running. Julia manages to play both the great lady and the martyr as she confides in Harry that her late husband arranged for a Polish count to seduce her for evidence to use in divorce proceedings. And when she didn't succumb, started false rumors that she did. Now she's feeling abandoned by family and friends. Harry is so full of empathy, he makes an unequivocal declaration of support, neglecting to mention the fact that he's engaged to someone else. Then, while traveling with Florence to Clavering Park at Easter, Harry presses Florence to set a wedding date, presses her so hard she offers to free him from their engagement if waiting is too much for him. Harry protests and makes another unequivocal declaration, this one of total commitment to Florence. At this point, Trollope interrupts the story to say what we are all thinking. Quote, Harry Clavering, who is the hero of our story, will not have presented himself as having much of the heroic nature in his character. It will perhaps be complained of him that he is fickle, vain, easily led. Henry James criticized Trollope for metafictional moments like this one that remind readers it's all just a story. I think such moments are fun. Here I believe Trollope is warning us that Harry is not done vacillating. We are going to have to be patient with him and cut him some slack, as we did for Frank Gresham and Dr. Thorne, and will do for Frank Greystock in the Eustace Diamonds, and for Phineas Finn more than once. I think Harry has it in him to do the right thing. My only question is, how much trouble will he cause himself and others in the meantime? I'm much more curious about what Julia will do. For me, she is definitely the more interesting character. She's stronger, she's bolder, and at the present moment, she's in a much more difficult situation. Next slide. Sir Hugh invites Florence to a family dinner at Clavering Park, giving readers an opportunity to enjoy Trollope's gift for depicting awkward social situations. You can feel tension between the rector and Sir Hugh, the rector and Sir Hugh's brother Archie, Sir Hugh and Archie, Harry and Archie, even Sir Hugh and his wife, whom he scolds for bringing their 2-year-old in to meet the company. Quote, "It was a poor, rickety, unalluring bairn, but it was all that Lady Clavering had, and she would fain have been allowed to show it to her relatives as other mothers are allowed to do." Irony, comedy, pathos, all in one scene. Sir Hugh encourages his brother Archie to court Lady Ongar. Archie needs money, Lady Ongar needs respectability. It would be a marriage of convenience, especially convenient for Sir Hugh, who doesn't like to have his brother and sister-in-law pestering him for assistance. Small problem, Lady Ongar is not husband hunting at the moment. She's at Ongar Park taking stock of her considerable property. When she comes across a poor laborer and his granddaughter, she gives the girl 6 pence, tells her steward to increase the old man's wages. The steward is not impressed with his mistress's generosity. He informs her there are others more deserving, and still others who will now want their wages increased too. Charity does not feel as good as Julia had hoped, nor does managing the estate. People keep their distance, rumors persist. Julia walks proudly in church to the front pew, knowing she will never be welcome. It's a sad picture of what should have been her moment of triumph. The deal she made marrying Lord Ongar has worked out exactly as planned in material terms, but she's only just beginning to grasp what it's cost her in other ways. Next, please. Historical background. The 1850s and 60s were characterized in England by highly visible technical developments. In 1864, Charing Cross Station opened, connecting London with Dover. It got busy very fast. The Barrow Hematite Iron and Steel Company was founded and soon became the world's largest steel mill, remained so into the 20th century. The City of Adelaide clipper ship was launched with a wooden hull and an iron frame propelled by both sail and steam. In cricket, overarm bowling became legal, giving bowlers more power and control. I mention cricket because the pursuit of power and control drove most of the technical innovations of the day. Expansion of the railways required new designs for locomotives, bridges, tunnels, mines, and mills to supply them, not to mention precision instruments for more accurate measurement. Demand for surveyors and engineers increased rapidly. The business was trending. No wonder Harry wanted to hop on that moving train. Next, please. Engineering in Trollope's time could be a gentleman's profession, but it wasn't necessarily. Previously, engineers were considered a motley crew, along with mechanics, smiths, molders, millwrights. In the first half of the 19th century, engineers began to rise to higher rank by focusing on the design of ambitious projects like canals and railroads, while leaving the work of construction to others. It's natural Harry's father prefers a traditional career path for his son, while Harry is attracted to something newer and, from a distance at least, more exciting. Most aspiring engineers started out like Harry by purchasing a kind of apprenticeship for a set number of years. Degree programs in engineering were established throughout the 19th century, but on the job and in the field, there was great suspicion of classroom training. Harry's employers would have been wary if he had studied mechanical drawing, much less Latin and Greek. Next slide, please. Not all aspects of English life were changing as rapidly as technology. In 1864, married women could not own property, make contracts, write wills, sue or be sued, even keep their own wages. The doctrine of coverture held that a husband and wife were one legal entity. The husband had legal status, the wife was under his protection and authority. Coverture remained the law until 1870, not in time to help Julia, who had to turn over what income she had to her wealthy husband. On a side note, coverture is the aspect of the law that inspired the famous exchange in Oliver Twist, where Mr. Bumble the Beetle is told, quote, "The law supposes your wife acts under your direction," close quote, and Mr. Bumble replies, "If the law supposes that, the law is," and you all know the rest. Next slide, please. Last historical fact. Sir Hugh was not alone in assuming a new widow would soon be on the lookout for her next husband. The stereotype of the husband-hungry widow appeared regularly in publications of the day. Trollope's mother, Frances, featured such a character in her novel, The Widow Barnaby. I believe Julia is a great example of how Trollope can take a familiar character, theme, or setting and make it fresh and interesting, even to modern readers, by adding both expected and unexpected dimensions, complications, and observations of everything from the smallest detail to long-term social trends. Next, please. Second to the last slide. Conclusion. We associate Trollope with great houses and country villages. In the Claverings, the most memorable architectural image is Clavering Park, which retains some of the beauty and charm of the past, but also shows times of neglect, signs of neglect, as Sir Hugh prefers to devote his time and money to personal gratification. Trollope places the opening scene in a garden at Clavering Park that has not been attended to for some time. Harry and Julia walk together knowing they must leave this not idyllic Eden and make their way in the world. They take different paths, but they both find the way they've chosen does not lead where they had intended. So, chapter 12 ends with Julia, the shipwrecked beauty, calculating her next move. Harry, the not-so-heroic hero, rushing off seemingly in two opposite directions at once, and Florence, too prudent by half, quietly, patiently waiting. Last slide, please. My suggested discussion questions. What do you think about the choices Julia and Harry make about their futures? How much do you think either of them understands about what they are getting themselves into? How would you characterize the relationship between the Brabazon sisters, Hermione and Julia, or the Claverings of Clavering Park and the Claverings at the Rectory, or Sir Hugh and his wife, Hermione? Last suggested question. The Claverings show both aristocrats and professionals, with Harry having a foot in each camp. What do you think of Trollope's portrayal of these social classes, where does Trollope direct his severest criticism? Thank you.